The shrill ping of my phone cut through the silence of my apartment, startling me awake at 2:14 a.m. Rain pattered against my bedroom window, the sound blending with distant sirens that never seemed to stop in this part of the city. I fumbled for my phone on the nightstand, my eyes still heavy with sleep. The screen's harsh light momentarily blinded me in the darkness as I squinted at the notification. A text message sent to the wrong number, meant for someone named Marco about a business meeting tomorrow. With 3 consecutive night shifts at the hospital behind me and exhaustion clouding my judgment, I replied quickly, "Sorry, wrong number. I'm not Marco." I set the phone down, expecting that to be the end of it, ready to drift back into much-needed sleep. The immediate ping that followed sent an unexpected chill down my spine. "I know you're not Marco. I've been watching you, Sophia." My heart raced as I stared at the message. How did this stranger know my name when I hadn't included it in my reply? My first instinct was to block the number, but curiosity mingled with fear kept my finger hovering above the screen. This could be a random prank, yet the precision of knowing my name suggested something more calculated, more dangerous. The apartment I'd always considered a sanctuary suddenly felt exposed. The large windows I loved for their natural light now seemed like vulnerabilities, easy access points for watching eyes. I moved to close the blinds, the fabric catching slightly as I yanked them shut with trembling hands. I'd dealt with aggressive patients in the ER, men who'd made inappropriate comments or tried to grab my arm, but this was different, more personal, more invasive, reaching into the only space that had ever truly felt like mine since leaving my childhood home. "Who is this?" I typed with trembling fingers, suddenly wide awake, adrenaline coursing through my veins. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again, each second of waiting amplifying my growing fear. The reply, when it came, was simple, yet terrifying in its certainty. "Someone you now belong to. From this moment on, you're mine." No question mark, no room for negotiation, just a declaration that made my blood run cold despite the warmth of my apartment. I almost dropped my phone when a photo appeared next. Me, leaving the hospital earlier that evening, completely unaware I was being photographed. The timestamp showed it was taken just 4 hours ago, the exhaustion clear on my face as I walked to my car. "This is harassment," I typed furiously, anger momentarily overriding fear. "I'm calling the police." My thumb hovered over the call button, but another message appeared before I could press it. "By all means, tell them Antonio Castellano would like a word." The name meant nothing to me, but something in the way it was written, as if I should recognize it, made me hesitate. Something told me this wasn't a random stalker, but something far more dangerous. Sleep forgotten. I searched the name online, my heart sinking with each result that appeared. Antonio Castellano, heir to a business empire rumored to be a front for organized crime, known for his ruthlessness in both legitimate and shadowy dealings, his face recognizable from charity galas and court appearances. I set my phone down on the nightstand as if it might burn me, staring at the last message that glowed on the screen. "Sleep well, Sophia. Tomorrow your life changes." Outside, the rain intensified, drumming against the window in an erratic rhythm that matched my heartbeat. I dragged myself through my morning shift at the emergency room, the strange text exchange haunting the edges of my consciousness as I moved from patient to patient. Mercy General was understaffed as usual, the waiting room overflowing with the aftermath of a multi-car pileup on the freeway. By mid-afternoon, I'd nearly convinced myself the nocturnal conversation had been a nightmare, a product of my overtired mind mixing with late-night crime dramas. That delusion shattered when Lisa from reception called to tell me there was a delivery waiting. The bouquet dwarfed Lisa as she struggled to carry it, an extravagant arrangement of blood-red roses and white lilies that must have cost a fortune. "Secret admirer?" she asked, eyes wide with curiosity, as she handed me the small envelope tucked among the blooms. My fingers trembled slightly as I opened it, a sense of foreboding washing over me, even before I read the neat handwritten message inside. "Mistakes sometimes lead to the right connections. I'll see you soon. AC." No contact information, no further explanation, just that cryptic message. The card's heavy cardstock felt weighted with implied threat, its elegant script a jarring contrast to the menacing message it carried. I slipped it into my pocket rather than discarding it. Evidence, I told myself, though of what crime I couldn't articulate. Lisa leaned closer, her perfume mingling with the flower's heady scent. "I've worked here 15 years and never seen a delivery like this. The guy who brought them looked more like a bodyguard than a delivery man. Wouldn't even smile when I tried to chat." A quick image search on my phone confirmed what I already suspected. the AC. On the card belonged to Antonio Castellano, whose family had deep connections to organized crime, despite their carefully cultivated public image of legitimate business tycoons. I contemplated throwing the flowers away, but something stopped me, a nagging fear that rejecting them might be perceived as an insult. Instead, I left them at reception, unable to bear the thought of having them in my workspace, their perfume a constant reminder of the stranger who claimed to own me. For the rest of my shift, I found myself glancing over my shoulder, studying the faces of visitors more carefully than usual, jumping whenever someone called my name. By the time I clocked out at 8:00 p.m., my nerves were frayed beyond repair. The hospital parking garage was dimly lit as always, despite numerous staff complaints about safety. I clutched my pepper spray keychain in one hand, phone ready in the other, and hurried toward my aging Honda Civic parked in the far corner of level 2. I was so focused on reaching my car that I almost missed it. The black Mercedes sedan parked 2 spaces away, its engine running, windows tinted too dark to see inside. I slowed, alarm bells ringing in my head as the passenger door opened smoothly. A man stepped out, tall and imposing in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. His movements were fluid, unhurried as he straightened and turned to face me with dark eyes that seemed to look right through me, studying me with unsettling intensity. "Sophia Reynolds," he said, my name on his lips a statement, rather than a question. His voice matched the confidence of his text messages, deep, controlled, with an edge that immediately confirmed my worst fears. This was Antonio Castellano, in the flesh. "How did you find me?" The question escaped me before I could think better of it, my voice sounding small in the cavernous parking garage. A slight smile played at the corners of his mouth, though it didn't reach his eyes, cold and calculating as they assessed me. "Finding people is rarely difficult with the right resources," he replied, leaning against the car with casual confidence that belied the implicit threat in his words. Behind him, I noticed another man standing vigilantly beside the driver's door, the unmistakable bulge of a shoulder holster beneath his jacket. I gripped my pepper spray tighter, forcing my voice to remain steady. "What do you want from me? I'm nobody, just a nurse trying to get through her shift. This must be some kind of mistake." Antonio studied me with those penetrating dark eyes, amusement flickering across his features. "I don't make mistakes, Sophia. Your accidental message landed in my phone for a reason. Some might call it fate." The word hung between us, loaded with implications I wasn't ready to face. "I don't believe in fate," I countered, trying to step around him toward my car, but he shifted slightly, blocking my path without seeming to move at all. "You will," he said, with unsettling certainty. "I've researched you thoroughly since your message. Sophia Reynolds, 28, trauma nurse, graduated top of your class despite working 2 jobs, no family except a younger brother, who seems to have disappeared from public records 6 months ago." My blood turned to ice at the mention of Tommy. The subject I'd been avoiding thinking about since he'd called asking for money then vanished. "Leave my brother out of this. Whatever game you're playing, I'm not interested." Antonio's expression hardened almost imperceptibly. "This isn't a game, Sophia. Your brother has gotten himself involved with very dangerous people who don't show the restraint that I do." Tommy had always been the wild one, impulsive where I was cautious, seeking thrills while I sought stability. Our parents' death when he was just 16 had untethered him further, leaving me as both sister and reluctant guardian to a grief-stricken teenager determined to test every boundary. I wrapped my arms tighter around myself, the fluorescent lights of the garage casting harsh shadows across Antonio's face, highlighting the sharp angles of his jawline. Why would the Valentis come after me? I have nothing to do with Tommy's debts. "Blood debt," Antonio replied, the words hanging heavy between us. "When someone can't pay with money, families like the Valentis collect in other ways. They'd use you to control him, or worse, to make an example of what happens when obligations aren't met." I took an involuntary step backward, the concrete pillar cold against my spine. "What are you talking about? Tommy's just having a rough time. He's backpacking through Europe, finding himself." A humorless smile crossed Antonio's face as he reached into his jacket, producing a photograph that he held out to me. "Is that what he told you? Perhaps you should see what kind of self-discovery your brother has been pursuing." The photo showed Tommy sitting at a poker table, fear etched across his face as he spoke with a man whose back was to the camera. The timestamp showed it was taken just 3 days ago, not in Europe, but at a casino right here in the city. "He owes the Valenti family over $200,000, Antonio said quietly. They're not known for their patience or mercy with debtors. They've already taken his passport. Next, they'll take much more. I stared at the photo, my world tilting on its axis. Why are you telling me this? What does any of this have to do with you? Or with me? Antonio stepped closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something subtle and expensive. Because the Valentis are my rivals, and because I'm offering you protection, for both you and your brother. Protection? I repeated, the word sounding hollow in the echoing garage. What's the catch? Men like you don't offer help without expecting something substantial in return. Smart girl, Antonio murmured, his eyes never leaving mine. The arrangement is simple. You'll appear as my companion at certain events, you'll stay at my estate where I can ensure your safety, and you'll provide medical expertise when required. Discreetly, of course. The implication was clear. He wanted a personal nurse for gunshot wounds and injuries that couldn't be reported to hospitals. And if I refuse, I could go to the police right now about Tommy. A flash of genuine amusement crossed his face. With what evidence? A text message from a stranger? A photo that proves nothing illegal? Meanwhile, the Valentis will collect their debt one way or another. They're not known for their subtlety. Rain began to fall outside the garage, the distant patter creating a strangely intimate atmosphere in our concrete confines. I thought about Tommy. Always impulsive, always in trouble, but still my only family since our parents died. I'd sacrificed everything for Tommy after our parents died. My scholarship to medical school, my apartment in a safer neighborhood, even my relationship with Mark, who couldn't understand why I kept bailing my brother out of one crisis after another. Yet here we were, deeper in trouble than ever before. Antonio watched the emotions play across my face, his expression unreadable. Your brother mentioned you once during a poker game, said his sister was the only honest person he knew. That caught my attention before I even knew who you were. A memory surfaced of Tommy at 14, standing up to neighborhood bullies who'd pushed me off my bike, his fierce loyalty undimmed by the years and poor decisions that followed. Whatever his faults, abandoning him to the Valentis was unthinkable. Why me? I asked finally, buying time as my mind raced through impossible options. You could hire any medical professional willing to look the other way. Why this elaborate setup? Antonio's expression shifted into something I couldn't read, a mixture of calculation and something else, something almost like genuine interest. Let's just say you possess certain qualities I find valuable. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression darkening instantly. It appears we're out of time for negotiations. The Valentis have located your apartment. They're waiting there now, assuming your brother will eventually contact you. My heart plummeted as I realized I'd left Tommy's last postcard displayed on my refrigerator, complete with his burner phone number scrawled across the bottom. I need to warn him. Antonio shook his head, already guiding me toward his car with a firm hand at the small of my back. Your phone is likely compromised. You can contact him securely from my estate. Marco, bring Ms. Reynolds' car to the secondary location tomorrow. As if in a dream, I found myself sliding into the plush leather interior of the Mercedes, watching my normal life disappear through tinted windows as we accelerated away from the hospital and into the gathering darkness. I clutched my bag to my chest, mind spinning with the impossible situation. How did Tommy get involved with the Valentis? He's reckless, but he's not stupid enough to borrow from the mob. Your brother made the classic mistake of thinking he could outsmart professionals, Antonio replied, his attention divided between me and the tablet his driver had handed him. He won big his first night, got overconfident, then tried to win back his losses with money he didn't have. We traveled in silence through the city, eventually turning onto a private road that wound uphill through dense forest. Security gates opened automatically as we approached, revealing sprawling grounds leading to a mansion that looked more like a fortress than a home. As the car stopped under a covered entrance, Antonio turned to me with unexpected solemnity. My house, my rules, Sophia. You'll be safe here, but don't mistake protection for freedom. Until your brother's debt is resolved, you belong to me. The same phrase from his text echoed in my mind as I followed him inside, trying not to gawk at the opulence surrounding me. Marble floors, priceless art, security that would put most government buildings to shame. Your room is upstairs, he said, leading me through corridors that seemed designed to confuse. You'll find everything you need there. My personal quarters are in the east wing. You are not to enter without invitation. A woman appeared silently, introduced only as Mrs. Vega, who would attend to my needs, a phrase that made me feel like a prisoner rather than a guest. She led me to a suite larger than my entire apartment, decorated in creams and blues. "Dinner will be served in an hour," Mrs. Vega informed me, her expression betraying nothing of what she thought about Antonio's newest acquisition. "Mr. Castellano expects you to join him. The closet has been stocked with appropriate attire." Left alone, I explored my gilded cage. A bedroom with a canopied bed, a bathroom with a shower and separate soaking tub, a sitting area with bookshelves, and a balcony with a view of manicured gardens, all monitored by discreet security cameras in the corners. The bathroom cabinet contained high-end toiletries and cosmetics in brands I'd only seen in magazines: Chanel, La Mer, YSL, all in shades that would complement my coloring perfectly. The invasion of privacy required to gather such specific items made my skin crawl. I tested the balcony door, finding it unlocked, but realizing the 30-foot drop to the gardens below made it a futile escape route. The security camera's tiny red lights blinked in the corners, reminding me that privacy was an illusion in this beautiful prison. On the nightstand sat a leather-bound book. Opening it revealed Antonio's personal library catalog, with a handwritten note suggesting titles I might enjoy based on the fiction section of my own bookshelf at home. The thought of him studying my personal space so intimately sent a confusing mixture of violation and intrigue through me. The closet revealed clothes in exactly my size, everything from casual wear to evening gowns, all with designer labels I'd never be able to afford on a nurse's salary. The invasion of privacy it represented made me shudder. My phone had no signal, and the landline only connected to internal extensions. I was effectively cut off from the outside world, dependent on Antonio's promise to help Tommy, a promise I had no choice but to trust, despite every instinct screaming against it. I changed into a simple black dress that fit perfectly, applied minimal makeup to my exhausted face, and steeled myself for dinner with the man who now controlled my life. Whatever game Antonio Castellano was playing, I needed to understand the rules if I was going to survive. Dinner with Antonio was a surreal experience. Fine china, crystal glasses, and a private chef serving dishes I couldn't pronounce in a dining room that could have housed my entire apartment. The man himself was impeccably dressed in a tailored shirt that emphasized his broad shoulders. "You look troubled," Antonio observed, sipping red wine that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Is your accommodation not to your liking, or is it the company you find distasteful?" I set down my fork, appetite vanishing despite the exquisite food. "What I find distasteful is being blackmailed into living with a stranger because my brother made bad decisions. When can I contact Tommy?" Antonio studied me with that unnerving intensity that seemed to peel away layers. "Your loyalty is admirable if misplaced. Your brother's call will be arranged tomorrow, after you've had proper rest. Tonight, I have questions of my own." The conversation that followed felt like a carefully orchestrated interrogation disguised as small talk. Questions about my childhood, my career choice, my interests, interspersed with subtle probing about my knowledge of Tommy's activities. Throughout dinner, I noticed Antonio's subtle gestures, the way he instructed staff without words, how his eyes constantly scanned the room, the almost imperceptible bulge of a weapon beneath his perfectly tailored jacket. This was a man perpetually on guard, even in his own home. "You've researched me thoroughly," I said, taking a small sip of wine to steady my nerves. "Fair exchange demands I know something about you. Why are you really helping Tommy and me? What's your stake in this beyond rivalry with the Valentis?" A shadow passed across Antonio's features, something raw and genuine breaking through his careful composure. "Let's just say I recognize the burden of responsibility for a sibling who creates chaos. My younger brother made similar mistakes. The difference is, no one intervened for him in time." "Why nursing?" he asked as dessert was served, a delicate chocolate creation I barely touched. "With your intelligence, you could have pursued more lucrative paths. Medicine, perhaps. Law." The question caught me off guard with its perceptiveness. Our parents died when a drunk driver hit their car. The trauma nurses kept Tommy alive when the doctors had given up. I wanted to give others that same chance. Something shifted in Antonio's expression, a flicker of genuine emotion breaking through his controlled facade. "You've built your life around saving others, while your brother destroys himself and drags you down with him." I bristled at the harsh assessment, despite its uncomfortable accuracy. "Family stands by family no matter what. I wouldn't expect someone like you to understand that concept." The temperature in the room seemed to drop as Antonio's expression hardened. "Someone like me? You presume much about a man you've known for less than a day, Sophia." Before I could respond, the dining room door opened, and a man entered without knocking. Tall, with the unmistakable bearing of law enforcement despite his casual clothes. "Sorry to interrupt dinner, Antonio, but we have developments." Antonio's expression revealed nothing as he introduced the newcomer. "Agent Daniel Reeves, FBI, one of my more useful associations." "Agent Reeves, meet Sophia Reynolds, my new houseguest." My world tilted sideways as I stared at the FBI agent who seemed completely comfortable in a known criminal's home. "You work for him? Isn't that illegal?" Agent Reeves smiled thinly, taking the seat Antonio offered. "I work with him, Ms. Reynolds. Antonio has been a confidential informant against the Valenti organization for 3 years. Your brother's situation presents a unique opportunity." The two men exchanged a look loaded with unspoken communication as Antonio poured Reeves a glass of wine. "The Valentis are planning something significant. Your brother's debt gives us leverage we didn't have before. You're using Tommy as bait," I realized, anger flaring hot and bright. "That's why you brought me here, not to protect me, but to ensure my brother's cooperation in whatever scheme you're running." Antonio's dark eyes met mine unflinchingly. "I brought you here to keep you alive. The Valentis would have found you by morning. They're not known for asking polite questions before resorting to persuasion." Reeves slid a folder across the table containing surveillance photos of my apartment, men in dark clothing picking the lock on my door. The timestamp showed it was taken just hours after Antonio had brought me to his estate. "These men have killed 17 people that we can confirm," Reeves explained, his tone clinical. "Your brother witnessed something he shouldn't have during one of their poker games. The debt is their excuse to find him." I felt sick as the full picture emerged. Tommy wasn't just in debt. He was a witness to a murder. So what happens now? You use me to draw him out, then use him to take down the Valentis? Do either of us survive this plan of yours? Antonio's expression darkened with what looked remarkably like genuine concern. "That was never the arrangement. Your safety was always the priority. Both of you will be placed in witness protection after the operation." I studied Antonio's face, searching for deception, but finding only calculation tinged with what appeared to be genuine concern. It struck me that in his world, protection and possession might be indistinguishable. Keeping me safe meant keeping me controlled, a concept both terrifying and strangely compelling in its twisted logic. A sudden commotion outside the dining room interrupted. Raised voices, hurried footsteps. Marco burst in, his usual composure shattered. "Boss, we've got a breach. The Valenti's men are on the grounds. They've disabled the south perimeter sensors." Antonio was on his feet instantly, weapon appearing in his hand from a concealed holster. "How many? Where's the security team?" Marco's expression was grim as he handed Antonio an earpiece. "At least 12 men, heavily armed. They knew exactly where the blind spots were. Someone gave them our security protocols." Realization dawned on Antonio's face as he looked at Reeves, who was already backing toward the door, hand reaching inside his jacket. "You son of a bitch. You've been working for them all along." The next moments passed in a blur of violence. Reeves drawing his weapon, Marco moving to protect Antonio, the deafening crack of gunfire that left my ears ringing and Reeves crumpled on the floor, a red stain spreading across his chest. "The panic room now," Antonio ordered, gripping my arm and pulling me through a hidden door behind a bookcase, into a narrow corridor that led to a steel-reinforced chamber deep within the house. Security Protocol Achilles is active. Inside the panic room, wall-mounted screens showed security camera feeds from around the estate, armed men moving methodically through the grounds, Antonio's security team engaging them in firefights that illuminated the night gardens with muzzle flashes. "They shouldn't have been able to breach the outer perimeter," Antonio muttered, accessing a computer console with rapid keystrokes. Reeves must have been feeding them information for months, waiting for the perfect moment. A phone on the wall rang, startling us both. Antonio answered, his expression transitioning from wariness to shock. "Put him through," he ordered, activating the speakerphone. "Tommy, this is Antonio Castellano. I'm with your sister." My heart leapt at the sound of my brother's voice, though it was tight with fear. "Sophia, are you okay? They found me. They're making me call. They say if Antonio doesn't surrender within 10 minutes, they'll start sending pieces of me back to you." Antonio's eyes never left mine as he replied with chilling calmness. "That won't be necessary. I'll exchange myself for both Tommy and Sophia. Unharmed. North Garden. 10 minutes. I grabbed his arm as he ended the call, panic rising. "You can't go out there. They'll kill you the moment they have what they want. There must be another way." A ghost of a smile touched his lips as he reached out to brush a strand of hair from my face, the gesture unexpectedly tender. There isn't, but I've prepared for this possibility. My men have orders to get you both to safety regardless of what happens to me. Tears threatened as the reality of the situation hit me. This man, who I'd known for less than 24 hours, was willing to die to protect me and the brother who'd unwittingly dragged us into this nightmare. Why? Why risk everything for strangers? Antonio's expression softened, revealing the man beneath the ruthless exterior. You were never a stranger, Sophia. From the moment your message appeared on my phone, I felt a connection I can't explain. Some might call it fate or destiny. He opened a hidden compartment in the wall, removing a flash drive which he pressed into my hand. This contains evidence of every Valenti operation for the past 5 years, enough to destroy them completely. If I don't return, give it to Captain Rivera at the 12th Precinct. Only him. He's clean. Before I could respond, Antonio leaned down and kissed me, not demanding or possessive, but with a gentleness that took my breath away. In another life, perhaps we could have explored what this might have become. In this one, I can at least ensure you survive. Security feeds showed the Valenti men converging on the North Garden, dragging a battered Tommy with them. Antonio checked his weapon one final time, then pressed a series of buttons that would unlock the panic room in 30 minutes. Remember, Captain Rivera, trust no one else. What happened next defied everything I thought I knew about Antonio Castellano. Instead of surrendering as promised, he executed a brilliant counterattack, his hidden security teams emerging from concealed positions throughout the garden in a perfectly coordinated ambush that left the Valenti's men outmaneuvered and outgunned. In the chaos that followed, I watched on the monitors as Antonio fought his way to Tommy, shielding my brother with his own body, as a Valenti lieutenant raised his weapon. The bullet that was meant for Tommy struck Antonio instead, sending him crumpling to the ground as police sirens wailed in the distance. Thank you all for following this story to its emotional conclusion. If you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Your support is what keeps these stories coming. Until next time, remember that sometimes the most unexpected messages lead to the most extraordinary connections.